explanation gave me the impression that you started writing your novel with a certain different idea. And this idea changed throughout the novel and come out totally different. Do you think that my impression is correct?
It's not easy to answer because I don't really know how books come about. I can think about it afterwards and say, well, probably it was this way or that way, but I don't really know. Mm-hmm. I'm never sure. Writing a book is an adventure story. Mm-hmm. And in this book, it was very funny. I've got a very good friend, and once a year, we make a short trip, just two men. Mm-hmm. And we talk a lot, and we eat a lot, and we tell a lot of jokes. And we were sitting at dinner somewhere, and he told me about a book he would like to read. He loves historical novels. Mm-hmm. So he wanted, why didn't anybody write a book about how the silkworms came to be in Europe? How did they come out of China and came to the Sultan in Constantinople? So why don't you write that book? It's a marvelous story. It's not my kind of book. I don't write books like that. But we were having dinner and we were drinking quite a lot of beer. And we started talking about what would have to be in such a book. What kind of story could we tell in such a book? And I invented a character, a man who had promised to the Sultan that he would bring him silkworms, and he couldn't deliver, though the Sultan decided to have his tongue cut out. And he couldn't talk anymore the rest of his life because he has no tongue. Mm-hmm. That was just an invention for one evening, but that character stayed in my mind. What do we do with a man who cannot speak? Not really.
My next question is the protagonist of the book, the stuttering prisoner, is accused of fraud. Do you think that this inclination to be that started since he was a little at home, church, and school, or was this feeling of impression and his decisions to take revenge from everyone that they reason behind all this?
I don't feel it that way. Mm-hmm. For me, the interesting thing is that he creates himself by inventing stories. Mm-hmm. He is, you could say, his own creator. Mm-hmm. And he is different people to different people. When he talks to the padre, he's somebody different. And if he talks to the editor, it's just his way of defending himself against the world. Mm-hmm. He defends himself against the world by creating stories about himself. And the interesting thing is that I, as a writer, I don't know, and I really mean it, I don't know which story is true, or if any of them are true. Mm-hmm. I couldn't tell you. I wouldn't know. Mm-hmm. Because he is telling me stories too, and he's very good at storytelling. So I really don't know what the truth is. And I think that makes the book interesting if you don't really know.
Okay, do you think that the main idea of theme of the novel is the power of manipulation, or the strong language, or the using language to manipulate, especially in the way that is written?
Certainly is a book about manipulating with language.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, this is what we all do all the time. Everybody is trying to manipulate everybody else with language. That's how human beings are created. We always do.
Yeah.
We can't help it. I think it's necessary. I even think that lying sometimes is a very positive thing. If a lady asks me, how do you like my dress?
Mm-hmm.
I don't answer, it makes you look so ugly, even if I feel it that way. I lie.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
It's okay to lie because you are not forced to tell the truth. It's only wrong if you tell a lie in order to cheat, to do something criminal, whatever. But we all lie all the time in order to manipulate our surroundings. The best thing is the unanswered question. In the English language, you greet people by asking them, how do you do? Mm-hmm. But you don't expect an answer. You don't, and if you answer, oh, I'm not feeling so well, I've got a headache, all wrong.
When to hear this, we want.
Your answer has to be fine. Nobody listens, nobody means it. It's just young people have decided that's the way to lie. So you lie and it's okay. But we also lie to ourselves, and that seems, for me, is the fascinating part. And I'm convinced that we are unable to remember. We can't remember what happened. We can only remember the stories we told about it. And we don't really know what happened, but we know the story we made out of it. We can repeat that. So a lot of that man's lies have become him. He couldn't. What did he really do with that horrible priest in his youth? I don't think he knows what really happened. I think he couldn't tell you. And probably the story in his memory will change regularly to fit the circumstances he's in. And because he is very good at that, he was very good at manipulating old ladies. Mm-hmm. He was really good. He could feel them and he could react to them. And I think he made them happy. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that he stole their money, but he made them happy.
You were described more than once as the writer who can do anything or tailor of words. Does it take special steps to work on your main character and have its only weapon, the written word? Especially that protagonist language is sometimes theologisch oder philosophisch.
Well, first of all, I quite like being able to do just about anything with language. It's fun. Mm-hmm. And I think my main characteristic is that I'm easily bored. It's very easy to bore yourself. So when I really know how to do something, I don't want to do it again, because then it's not interesting anymore. Mm-hmm. For instance, I've written a lot of TV shows, But once you have written the most successful TV show, why should you go on? You can't get any better. But when you write novels, every new novel is a completely new adventure. It doesn't get boring. It would only be boring if I had to write the same book again. I don't think my books resemble each other. And mostly you as a translator will be able to appreciate that their language doesn't resemble each other. If you read another of my books, the language is completely different. I think that language must follow story. And you can't tell every story in every language. You have to find the language for that book. And so writing different books does not get boring.
What is the purpose in having all the female characters in the novel as a victim?
You have the central character who always feels like a victim. Even if he uses other people, he always feels himself to be a victim. That's probably because he was brought up that way. And so he tries to trick himself out, even out of prison, he tries to trick himself. He probably is a kind of victim, but then so are we all. We are all in in that victim mood.
Yeah. In your point of view, what is the point in having the priest in Johannes' life, sometimes as criminal, as you did with Beethoven's character, and another time as savior in the character of the priest of the prison?
You know, that's an academic question. Is that a university question?
I don't know.
And you know,
my impression.
I'm a simple writer. I don't think that way. It's something that people at university, they read the book and they have very, very clever thoughts about it. And then I hear these questions. This often happens. And I say, oh, that's interesting. I never thought of that. So how do I answer the question? It's not what I do when I write. It comes out that way. Okay, that's good. But I did not create it that way in order to create it that way. I just, I start a story, and usually I don't know where it leads. So I can't create things like in that way because I don't know where it leads and I don't want to know. I don't know whether you have that in Arabic. There are children's books where you have a picture and you have different numbers. And if it's a 3, you have to color it blue. And if it's a 2, you have to color it red. It's for children. And if I knew exactly what I was going to write, I would feel like that, just coloring in something, and that would be boring again. I just don't know where I'm going, and I don't want to know.
In an alternative novel, how would it proceed if the protagonist was a stutterer but without the talent of writing?
Any story can proceed in any way. My example is always Romeo and Juliet. Mm-hmm. If they don't die at the end, it's a comedy.
Oh.
Now it's a tragedy because they die at the end, but you can tell the same story and make it a comedy. It would be very easy. Uh-huh. And every story can go any way. And it's partly the writer who decides, but only partly. Sometimes it's the characters in a story that decide for you. and you can't help it. You know, you can invent a character, but once you have invented it, if you have invented that character well, then you can't make everything you want with that character. It doesn't work. It doesn't. I had a fascinating experience only once in my life. In a dozen books, it happened once, but it was the most fascinating thing. Two ladies were leaving a house, and I knew where they were going. And as the story happened in my city, I knew exactly which way they would take. And they took another way. And I said, what the hell? This is wrong. Where are they going? And I didn't know where they were going. And I followed those two ladies like a detective to find out, where the hell are you going? Yeah. What are you doing? This is not my novel. I've planned for you to go there and there meet the man you're going to marry. Why are you going in another direction? And I didn't know. Of course, somewhere back in my head, I had invented it, but I didn't realize that. It was like someone else telling me a story. And if that happens, it's wonderful. That's the best thing that can happen to you as a writer, when your character starts being alive and doing things well, it's wrong to say you never thought of, because of course you thought of them. But inventing happens in a part of your brain that you are not a master of. You don't, it's not like a car that you can drive anywhere. And it was and if you let it do it with you, then you can get interesting results.
You mentioned in an interview that whoever has the power to publish controls the truth. To what extent do you see this in reality?
All history is told by the winners.
Mm-hmm.
The man who wins the war tells the story of the war. And that's the same with publishing. The man who writes the books gets to tell the story. But if you have, a really great writer, let's say like Charles Dickens, we cannot imagine the England of his time different from what he wrote. For us, the England of his time is as it's described in Oliver Twist. Because he was such a great writer, he got to define his time. And we don't know anything else about it, because his story is stronger than anybody else's, or Paris and Balzac, or something like that. And the same, it's if you had only one publisher, he could decide what the history of your country is. And in the long run, if there were no other media, people would believe it.
When cutting the title, did you intend to draw attention to the necessity of taking notes of the both of symbolisch oder metaphorisches Elemente in the stories of the Bible, and critically analyzing it, and at the same time have it content to the reality and not just some tale with no deeper meaning?
I'm a very simple man. I just tell a story. And all those things, sometimes I'll tell it differently. I just published a book to my, well, it was something I allowed myself for my 75th birthday. And that was a book. I went through all my novels and I looked for all the details that were part of my personal life. And I wrote them down, and I was very surprised at what had sort of, sneaked into it not usually without my remarking at the time. So things happen in writing, and I allow them to happen. And afterwards, I can look at them and say, oh, that's what I did. But I usually don't know in advance. And so if very intelligent people ask me very intelligent questions, I often have to say, oh, you're probably right. You're much more intelligent than I am. But I never thought of that while I was writing it. I'm not the kind of writer who construct a novel and he says, well, I'll do that. And then metaphorically, it will mean that. And symbolically, it will be that. I find it out later. Oh, that's what I did. Sometimes I think, oh, that was clever. But I didn't realize at the time of writing what I was doing.
Would be the main point of attraction in your novel to the Arabic reader?
That's very, very hard to say. Let me tell you a story to explain. One of my novels was translated into Chinese. And I was asked to write a foreword for the Chinese reader. And I told them, well, you'll understand nothing in this novel. This is a novel about a group of people who is so small. It's just about the number of people being born in China every day. And all their rituals and whatever they do will not be something you know. But in the center of the novel is a family. And everyone has a family, and you understand every family in the world, because family is something that is common to us all. And I think what people will understand, not because they are Arabic, but because they are people, they will understand the central character's loneliness. He is a very lonely person, and everybody has been lonely. And everybody has been misunderstood. And everybody has tried to change the world in some way. Though that's what people will understand, even if the cultural tradition around are completely different. You'll be shocked. Now I'll shock you. Okay. As an editor. The situation with that book was that I had to find a new publisher, because the publishing house I have been with for many years was sold. I absolutely refused to work with him. Just someone I didn't want to, you know. I'm quite an old man and I like being old. So I needed a new publisher. So I proposed that book to Diogenes, and Diogenes said, yes, we want it. And we want it very urgently. So it was put into printing without anybody correcting it. Oops. They took my manuscript and it was put into print. Then the first printing came back. Then we did the corrections necessary in one long telephone call. Okay. And usually, yeah, I know it's not the way usually you have, but that's the way I work.
Not when German, not Swiss at all.
No, it's not at all. But you know, when I deliver a manuscript, then it's really finished. I worked on it a long time, and I know it's okay the way it is. So I tell the nice lady responsible for me, try and find the mistakes so we can take them out. But don't try to change my text because I won't have it.
Okay, so
And if you don't like the text the way it is, okay, then don't publish it. But
you're not
my
the
texts
easy.
are
You're not the easy author that allows to discuss and
I'm
to
a
change.
terribly easy author because it works.
Also, one
Yeah,
thing
you
I
know,
noticed in the rest of your books, they are all big books, 600 pages.
Not all of
700
them.
pages.
No, I've written thin ones and long ones. But the funniest thing was my most successful novel, which sold about 500,000 copies.
Which title?
Which is quite a lot. Huh?
Which title?
Called Melnitz,
Mm-hmm.
a family story. And it had about 800 pages in German. And we did all the corrections with the publisher in one sitting of about 3 hours. And that was it.
Wow.
It's just the way I work.
Yeah, it works with you. That's interesting to know that this works. Okay, another question that's really interesting. We announced that the book is coming out. We did a press release and we sent it to the press, and it traveled all around the Arab world. And we received a very interesting email coming from Saudi Arabia, from a tutoring organization that read this, and they are so excited about the book and want to know how to get your book. We said, well, it's in the final editing and it will be released. I don't know if it will be accepted in Saudi Arabia or not, but I mean, there's always electronic versions of the books. I mean, we have EPUBs that are available, so maybe they would access this.
Yeah, it's interesting. I haven't had many reactions from stuttering organizations. I had one that was very interesting. They were very angry with me.
Of course.
They said
it's not
a
what they
stutterer
expected.
can't be a criminal. And I thought, well, anybody can be a criminal. But they were convinced that because they were stuttering, they were victims. So I said, well, read the book. That's exactly what he thinks. I never heard from them again. But you always find someone. If you don't want emails like that, don't write books.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. You should be open for also criticism and people liking or disliking what you write. That's part of the deal once you start working like this. But from Saudi Arabia, that was I didn't know that there's something like this exists, like a tutoring.
The most surprising reactions. I published a novel about a detail of Swiss history.
Okay.
And I was waiting for reactions from historians, thinking they would write to me telling me, well, it wasn't that way, it was that way.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we talked about just now, right? To decide. And then the only letter that came was, they are drinking a herbal infusion in chapter so-and-so, and that herb didn't exist in Europe at that time. That's the only one.
Okay, you can take this.
You know that as a publisher, you can correct and correct and correct. There is always a mistake in a book. Yeah,
I mean, we should live with it, and you can always correct it as well. But also, it's part that means that people read really good and really think while they're reading. This means that, well, that's very good if people are that picky about something.
But, I work very hard trying not to make mistakes, because if you are a reader and you know something, let's say, about football.
Exactly.
And then there's a football match and there is something in that does not happen in a football match, then the book is spoiled for you.
Totally.
It's like the writer is kicking you and telling you, get out of my book.
Exactly.
And you don't want that.
That's why we have research. Yeah. And thanks now for Google. I mean, in the past, you should have traveled, you should have called people, you should have read a lot of books. Now, maybe you just see a couple of photos or you just post a question and you receive all the answers you need directly.
I do, when I write a book, I do a terrible lot of research. It might be interesting for you as a translator. I don't know anything about Schopenhauer.
Oh,
Yes.
That was all
so
research.
many times. He's mentioned so many times, and it's so true. Yeah.
That was all hard work. I've never been interested in Schopenhauer, but it worked for him. Or, you know, I've got a personal expression that might be interesting for a publisher. I call it the blue whale research.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when the blue whales, those immense things, they go through the ocean with open mouth.
Yeah, they eat
and
everything.
They have immense amounts of water that come in, and just some little things stick to them, and that's what they eat.
Uh-huh.
They don't know in advance what's going to stick. So
I think this what
there are two
happens
kinds
with,
of research.
yeah, that's what happens with us reading books.
There's one kind of research where you have a question and you want to answer it.
Mm-hmm.
Who won that football game in 1920? That's a clear question and you can find the answer. But when you write about a historical period, you don't know what to ask. So you just read any amount of books about that time, you watch every film you can get, listen to every radio production about that time, but you don't know what little thing they're going to stick.
Exactly.
You have the faintest idea what it will be.
And then it clicks. And that's the beauty.
And when I do that, I never write anything down. Never. I don't make notes.
Really?
And I tell myself the things that come to mind by themselves, they are the things that belong in my book. Not what I've written down on a piece of paper.
Wow. Okay.
If it sticks to my mind, then it probably belonged in the book. But I forget it. When the book is finished, I forget all those stuff.
you flush, and then you start.
It's sort of that because your mind is busy with the next project, which is completely different.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have really problems remembering what did I write in that book. I have to look it up. I'm not always sure because I'm working on something else, and
your mind is occupied.
My mind is occupied, and I'm not bored.
That's the beauty of it, actually. I want to tell you, we enjoyed your book very much, immensely. I didn't expect it that much because I haven't read the English. I only had German, and I don't speak German. And that Niveen, Dr. Niveen here, did an excellent job. She really worked very, very hard on every part. And there is a lot of research that we had to do. Imagine on the other side.
I can imagine, yeah.
And also to make it readable and enjoyable to the Arabic reader. We did a lot of editing. We gave it to an external reader. We sat again, we discussed, we sent parts, we sent you some questions. We tried to cover everything, and maybe there will be mistakes as well. As you said, there will always be something missing or something.
There always are.
But it is enjoyable.
But you know, it's really my conviction that writing is easy, translating is difficult.
I would say so. Now I
there
would
is
say so.
A regular meeting of translators. They meet every month and just to talk about their problems.
Okay.
And I go there because I can learn so much from them about language. I'm not a translator, but I go there as a guest just to listen to the problem they have, and it helps me become a better writer. I think
that's very smart.
Translators are really the heroes, and probably it's completely different in Cairo, but here they are very badly paid heroes.
No, they are badly paid here as well. I think it's a global thing.
I think that's international, yeah.
It's unser Schicksal.
Yeah. It's everywhere. Don't worry. It's something worldwide in this. No, but it's really, I mean, such books for me as a publisher, and I did a lot of books, believe me, and I edited a lot of books. These books that come across your way is that makes the job interesting. It's the challenging books It's even the language I don't speak, so we have to really do a lot of work concerning what do you mean, how does it look. We had a big discussion about the kiosk that had the newspapers that you mentioned in the beginning and at the end. How does the place look like? And I tell her, no, that doesn't make sense. It's not like this. You have to research. There is no kiosk inside a church. Is it like this place, like a gift shop, you know, kind of thing inside that has this? But they wouldn't sell Bravo there, I think. So is it on the other side of the street? No, you have to discuss, you have to see, this is not, I can't, as a reader, I can't imagine how it looks like. So go and research. And she sent questions and we kept trying to figure out.
It's fascinating because the differences between cultures are in the details.
Exactly.
All those little things that you say that in one culture are very normal and everyday, and then you'll think, hey, you can't do that. What the hell is that?
Yeah, and the first job he worked when he was typing this inappropriate job, it's very difficult to explain it here, especially nowadays with the internet. So
yeah, I can imagine. Yeah,
it's a big challenge to have something like this. It's not easy to explain it to a reader of the 21st century.
That's why people should write about their own culture, because you always get other cultures wrong.
No, that's our job to explain this. That's her job.
It's so many details that you just can't know. How the hell do they do that in Cairo? You wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Well, I write about what I know.
That's why you have to come and visit to show you Cairo.
That would be a pleasure. Once you have sold the first 100,000 copies, then we'll arrange a trip.
Then this will be a long trip. We have to build another pyramid for you to come. No, it was a pleasure to have you. Do you have any final questions?
The last question.
One question, and then she will close. And
if...
thank you very much for writing these beautiful books, and keep writing.
Thank you.
And we're so proud to have you in this conversation and with us as an author of a publisher. One last question.
Wonderful, thank you.
The last question, short question. Which book in German would you suggest the Arabic read? Aktuell.
New book or old book?
Both.
I think everybody who is interested in German literature, I think should have read Buddenbrooks. I think that's from the classics. That's from the moderns. I'm not so sure, because I mostly read in English. I don't read very much German.
Okay.
Because you know why?
Why?
No, it's a very practical reason. I have to defend my own language. And if every book has its language, once I have found it, I don't want to spoil it by reading something else. So I read in another language. And so
interesting.
So I'm not very good at suggesting current German literature. And anyway, whenever anyone asks me about the book, then I say, have you read Hilary Mantel?
Yeah.
Who, in my opinion, is the greatest writer we have at the moment. So I hope your publisher got the rights to that.
Yeah, hopefully. Okay.
Let's hope so. Thank you for an interesting hour.
Yeah, interesting choice. Also, a writer that writes big books. No wonder.
Have a good time, and I'm looking forward to putting the book with all the other translations.
Yeah, but take care of the direction, because they always put it upside down. When we send them the Arabic one, they put it upside down. You know, the direction is different here. We read from right to left.
Have you looked on my webpage? Was it correctly there?
No, I will check it. I don't know that you added it.
Have a look at my webpage, and if it's wrong, tell me.
Okay, we will
Okay.
check your
Okay.
webpage. Thank
Okay.
you
Have
very
a good
much.
time.
Thank you.
And choose.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.